All right, let's jump right in. If you work with data, choosing the right chart is one of the most important things you can learn. And today, we're going to cut through all the confusion with a really simple but super powerful framework.
And it all starts right here. Seriously, stop using pie charts for everything. If that's your default, you are almost certainly hiding the very insights you're trying to find. But hey, don't worry, there is a much better way.
You know, this whole process, it really just boils down to this one single question. Your goal, the message you want to get across, is what determines the chart you need. And your answer is going to lead you down one of four very clear paths.
And here they are. This is the framework we promised. These are the four fundamental stories your data can tell. Are you making a comparison, showing a relationship, breaking down a composition, or looking at the distribution? Let's walk through each one so you know exactly which chart to pick every single time.
Okay, first up, comparison. This one's pretty straightforward. It's for when you need to see how one thing stacks up against another. You know, think sales figures across different regions, or maybe the performance between two different ad campaigns.
So here's the key question for comparisons. Are we talking about time? Your choice really hinges on this one simple thing. Are you tracking a trend over a period? Or are you just looking at a static snapshot, a single point in time? That one answer will point you to the perfect chart.
So if you're showing change over time, we're talking monthly revenue, yearly website traffic, that kind of thing, the line chart is your absolute best friend. Seriously, nothing shows a trend with all of its ups and downs more clearly.
But what if time isn't the main thing? What if you're just comparing different categories at once, like who has the biggest market share or what the responses to a survey were? Well, that's where the bar or column chart comes in. It's your champion for that immediate, clean visual comparison.
All right, let's move on to our second path, showing a relationship. This is where we go a little deeper. This is for when you want to see if different variables are actually connected to each other. It helps you uncover those potential correlations that might be hiding in your data.
And once again, it's a really simple question that gets you to the right tool. The key is just the number of variables you're trying to connect. Are you plotting two things against each other, or are you trying to squeeze in a third dimension?
If you're just working with two variables, say you're looking at advertising spend versus sales, a scatter plot is absolutely perfect. The way the dots cluster together instantly tells you if there's a relationship there and what kind it is.
Okay, but what if you have a third variable you need to show? Let's stick with that example. You've got ad spend and sales. But what if you also want to show the number of units sold? That's when you bring in the bubble chart. Think of it like a scatter plot, but now the size of the bubble represents that third piece of data. It just gives you a much richer picture.
All right, on to path number 3, composition. This one is all about showing how a whole is broken down into its parts. You know, a part-to-whole relationship. Think about a budget being split up or a market share breakdown. You've got a total, and you need to show what it's made of.
And just like before, there's a key fork in the road here. The question you have to ask is this composition static or does it change over time? In other words, are you looking at a single snapshot or are you trying to show how the pieces of the whole have changed over, say, the last few years?
And this shows you the difference perfectly. On the one hand, for a simple static breakdown, just one point in time, a pie chart can work just fine. But the second you need to show how that breakdown changes over time, the pie chart just falls apart. For a changing composition, a stack column chart is way better.
So yeah, here it is. This is the correct time to use a pie chart. When you have a simple, static percentage of a whole, and, this is important, only a few categories. Like, fewer than 6 is a good rule of thumb. Use it for this, and honestly, probably only for this.
But when you need to show how that composition shifts, like how your revenue sources have changed over the last 4 quarters, the stacked column chart is an absolute game changer. You can see two things at once, how the total amount is changing and how the little pieces inside it are changing. It's so powerful.
And that brings us to our fourth and final path, distribution. This is all about stepping back and seeing the big picture of your data. You're not looking at individual points so much as the overall shape. You're asking, where does my data cluster? What's the range? And are there any weird outliers?
So, your last decision point here is super straightforward. Are you just looking at the spread of a single variable, or are you looking at how two different variables are distributed when you plot them together?
If you're just looking at one variable, like the test scores for an entire class, a histogram is your go-to.
What it does is it groups the data into these little ranges, they're often called bins, and then shows you how many data points fall into each one. It's perfect for seeing where the bulk of your data is at a glance. And hey, look who's back! The scatter plot. This just goes to show you how versatile some of these charts can be. When you use it for distribution, you're not really looking for a trend line. You're looking for how the data points are spread out. It's fantastic for spotting clusters, or gaps, or any of those weird outliers that you might need to investigate further.
So why does any of this actually matter? Well, because choosing the right chart isn't just about making things look pretty. It's a strategic move. It's what takes you from just showing a bunch of numbers to actually discovering new insights, making smarter decisions, and telling a clear, compelling story with your data.
Look, your data is talking. It always has a story to tell. And following a framework like this just ensures you have the right tools to actually listen to it, to understand it, and then to share that story with real impact. So the next time you're staring at a spreadsheet, remember to ask yourself that one simple question: what am I trying to show?